The great arena did not look like a place where anyone could live, and yet it was where entire species were judged. Above it was a huge curved wall of glowing metal and glass, not a real sky, but bright enough to hurt the eyes. Beyond that wall, far away in space, millions of alien beings watched in silence from their ships and stations. They had gathered for one reason only: the Predator test. For thousands of years, this test decided the fate of rising civilizations. Any species that wished to join the Galactic Coalition had to face it. Most believed it was fair. Most were wrong. No species had ever truly passed. Some had fought bravely, some had tried to hide, some had begged, but all had failed in the end. Those who failed lost their freedom, their worlds, or their future. Now humanity stood at the edge of that same fate. 12 humans were placed inside the arena, chosen as the best Earth could offer. They wore light survival suits with no weapons, no armor, and no advanced tools. The rules were simple and cruel. Survive the predators using only what the land provided. The Coalition believed this showed the true nature of a species. Among the humans stood Captain Eli Mercer, a man with quiet eyes and a calm face. He was not famous, not a hero in the public eye. He was a trainer, a soldier who had spent years deep in Earth's jungles, teaching others how to live where danger never slept. He knew how plants could cut, poison, and hide death. He knew how animals hunted, waited, and tested their prey. As the test began, the arena changed around them. The ground cracked and shifted, rising into hills and deep pits. Strange trees grew tall and close together, their leaves thick and dark, blocking sight and light. Fog rolled across the land, heavy and cold, carrying strange smells. The humans spread out, following instinct, fear, and training. Then the predators arrived. They were called the Krathul, creatures designed to hunt anything that lived. They were massive, with black skin that looked like armor, long claws sharp enough to slice metal, and eyes that could see heat, movement, and fear. They did not hunt alone. Their minds were linked, sharing every sound and image, making them almost impossible to surprise. 6 of them entered the arena, and that alone told the humans the truth. This was not a test meant to be passed. It was an execution made to look fair. The first screams came quickly. A scientist who ran too fast, his heat giving him away, was torn apart in seconds. A soldier tried to fight, charging with a sharp stone, and was crushed like an insect. Panic spread through the human group as the fog filled with roars and shaking ground. The alien watchers observed calmly, already bored, already judging. They spoke among themselves, saying humans depended too much on machines, that they were weak without weapons, that fear ruled them when hunted. One by one, the humans fell. The jungle swallowed their cries. Mercer heard their voices cut off through the comms, felt the weight of each death settle into his chest, but he did not scream or run blindly. He slowed his breathing. He listened. He watched. To him, this place was not strange. It felt familiar. He saw how the fog moved, how the ground held footprints, how the trees could hide a body or betray it. He remembered Earth, remembered nights where predators circled camps, waiting for fear to make a mistake. Soon, only 3 humans remained. Then 2, then silence. Mercer stood alone, mud on his boots, sweat on his skin, heart beating steady and slow. The cameras found him, zoomed in, waiting for the final moment. The Coalition announced that the end was near, that humanity would fail like all the others. But Mercer was not afraid. He looked at the trees, the fog, the broken ground, and something inside him settled. The Krathul roared in the distance, confident, certain of their victory. They believed he was prey. That belief was their greatest weakness. Mercer knew a truth learned from Earth's oldest jungles, a truth written in blood and survival. In places where predators ruled, the smart did not fight with strength. They fought with patience. They learned the land. They became invisible. As the fog thickened and the ground trembled with approaching hunters, Mercer allowed himself a small smile. This was not the end of humanity. This was the beginning of the hunt, and for the first time in the history of the predator test, the prey was ready to strike back. Mercer moved carefully through the thick fog, feeling every step, every root, and every change in the ground beneath him. The Crotho were hunting him openly now, their massive forms moving with precision, eyes scanning for heat and movement, sensing every sound. Most would panic in this situation, but Mercer was not most. On Earth, he had learned that rushing, shouting, or fighting head-on was a death sentence in a jungle. Predators did not need to be the strongest. They only needed patience and skill. Mercer began using the environment around him, noticing small details that would be useless to others but deadly in skilled hands. He broke a small branch and threw it into the thick fog. One of the Crotho followed the sound, leaving a gap in their formation. Mercer moved the other way, silent, careful not to disturb leaves or soil more than necessary. He smeared mud and crushed plants on his suit, covering the heat signature his enemies sought. He crawled along the ground, using vines and roots to hide, only stepping on stones or thick leaves when necessary. Time became his ally. Hours passed, but Mercer did not grow tired in the way the Crayfell expected. He rested when they moved and moved when they rested, understanding the rhythm of predators as he had understood the rhythm of jungle creatures back on Earth. He spotted one of the Crayfell beneath him, standing alert, scanning the ground. Mercer waited, not attacking, simply letting the creature pass directly under his hiding place in the branches above. He dropped a carefully placed stone into a hidden pit he had dug earlier. The Crotho fell into the trap, roaring in rage as its limbs were pinned and broken. Mercer stayed hidden, silent, letting exhaustion take the creature and weaken it further. The first kill was slow, but necessary, teaching him how to manipulate these beings without showing his own presence. One by one, he repeated similar tactics. He used false trails of heat, sound, and movement to confuse the hive mind of the Crotho. He set traps using sharpened pieces of alien plants, holes covered by leaves, and mud to make the ground slippery. He led the predators into these traps carefully, allowing them to expend energy, confusion, and patience. The fog and terrain were not enemies. They were weapons in his hands. The alien judges, watching from their stations, began to show signs of surprise. "The human's heat signature is disappearing," one said. "How is it possible?" Another asked. Mercer was not hiding in magic or technology. He was relying on what he had learned from Earth. The jungle taught him patience, observation, and the art of misdirection. The remaining Crotho grew cautious. They no longer moved as a single unstoppable force but spread out, wary of traps and false signals. Mercer's smile grew. They had become prey without realizing it. The largest Crotho, the leader, had been watching and analyzing, but even it could not adapt quickly enough to Mercer's careful manipulation. In open ground, the leader finally roared and charged at Mercer, expecting an easy kill. Mercer waited until the last possible moment, then sidestepped. The predator fell into the final trap, a deep pit lined with sharpened alien spikes. The creature's massive body thrashed in pain, and then there was silence. The arena, once alive with roars and screams, became quiet. Mercer stood alone, chest heaving, blood on his hands, mud on his clothes, but alive. He had done what no other human and no other species had ever done. He had survived the predator test. The coalition was stunned. The Crotho were designed to see everything, hunt everything, and work as a perfect team. Yet Mercer had turned their own instincts against them. He had used fear, patience, and the environment itself as weapons. In that fog-filled arena, a single human had outsmarted creatures built for perfection. The judges could not hide their astonishment. For the first time, the Predator test did not end in predictable death. Mercer had survived by understanding what his enemies could not. In a jungle, the mind of the prey can become as deadly as the claws of the predator. Every movement he made was deliberate, every trap carefully planned, and every sound measured. It was not brute strength that saved him, but skill, cunning, and experience. The arena itself became a weapon in his hands. He used trees, vines, rocks, and pits to control the battlefield. He let the predators expend energy chasing illusions, leading them into one another, breaking their communication. The hive mind of the Crothal, which had once been their greatest strength, became their weakness. Mercer's patience allowed him to strike only when the creature was vulnerable, never too soon, never too late. Hours turned into what felt like days, and yet he remained alert. Every roar of the Crothal, every shift in the ground, every smell in the fog was a signal. He read them all like a book. He used exhaustion against them, allowing the creatures to tire, confuse, and weaken themselves. When he finally struck the leader, it was the culmination of every tactic, every lesson, every second of observation. The pit trap was his final move, a combination of Earthborn ingenuity and knowledge of predator behavior. The largest Crothal fell, thrashing and screaming, ending the test that had lasted thousands of years without success. Mercer, dirty, bleeding, exhausted, but unbroken, stood alone. For the first time in history, a human had survived the Predator test. The fog cleared slowly around him, and the alien observers sat in stunned silence. They had believed nothing could survive, that humans were weak without tools. Mercer had proved them wrong. The human mind, sharpened by survival in harsh environments, was more than a match for even the deadliest alien hunters. The arena was littered with the fallen bodies of Crothal, a testament to strategy over strength, patience over panic, and cunning over instinct. Mercer's victory was not about killing alone. It was about understanding, planning, and using what was available in ways the predators could not anticipate. The coalition had watched hundreds of species fail before, but now they realized the humans had something unique, the ability to learn, adapt, and think in ways that no bioengineered predator could predict. Mercer's name, unknown before the test, would echo through the galaxy as the human who had changed the rules, the one who outsmarted the predators using only his mind, his experience, and the Earthborn skills that had kept his ancestors alive for millennia. The arena, once a place of death, became a stage for the triumph of patience, cunning, and survival instinct. Mercer's victory was complete, total, and undeniable. For the first time, humanity had proven it could survive not by strength, but by intelligence, skill, and understanding the natural world in ways no other species could. In the end, Mercer did not just survive. He had rewritten the meaning of the Predator test forever. After the final Crothal fell into the pit, the arena became still. The fog hung low, the trees seemed to breathe in silence, and the strange alien plants swayed as if sensing the calm. Mercer stood at the center, chest heaving, mud and blood covering his body, his hands shaking from exhaustion and adrenaline. Around him lay the bodies of predators that had once been the ultimate hunters in the galaxy. They had been flawless, terrifying, unstoppable, and yet here they were defeated, not by weapons or machines, but by the mind and skill of a single human. The coalition observers, millions of eyes and cameras watching from orbit, were silent. Some of them were angry, others confused, many shocked. They had never seen a human survive. They had never imagined that a species known for its frailty on a galactic scale could defeat their deadliest creations. The judges summoned Mercer to a central chamber, a place high above the arena with clear views of the planet and the test grounds. He walked slowly, his body aching, every step a reminder of the trials he had endured. The chamber was enormous, with towering walls of shining metal and glowing panels, each showing images of the arena, his traps, and the fallen predators. The alien judges towered over him, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light, their forms both beautiful and terrifying. One stepped forward, his voice deep and resonant, echoing across the hall. "Human," he said, "explain yourself. How did you survive when all others failed? How did you outsmart creatures that were designed to hunt perfectly?" Mercer looked around the chamber calmly. He did not boast. He did not fear. He spoke slowly, choosing each word. "On Earth," he said, "only fools fight predators head-on. You must understand them, learn the land, and let patience be your weapon. Strength is nothing without cunning. Fear is a tool, not a weakness. That is why I am alive." The judges exchanged glances. Some whispered to each other, others studied the data, replaying footage of the traps, the false trails, and the strategic maneuvers Mercer had made. They realized that their test had measured only raw power, only direct confrontation, and had assumed that a clever mind could not defeat their best hunters. Mercer had shattered that assumption completely. Across the galaxy, the news spread quickly. Ships carrying coalition diplomats and scientists received messages of the impossible. A human had survived the Predator test. They shared recordings, showing the careful movements, the traps, the clever use of terrain, and the way Mercer manipulated the hive mind of the Krathol without ever being detected. For the first time, humans were no longer considered weak or primitive. They were intelligent, adaptive, and capable of outthinking even the most perfect predators. Back in the chamber, the largest of the judges spoke again. "Your species. We misjudged you. You have shown something unique, something dangerous, and something remarkable. The predator test is complete." Another judge added, "You have not only survived, you have changed the meaning of this test forever." Mercer nodded slightly, tired but satisfied. He did not need recognition. He had done what was necessary. He had survived. Outside, the arena began to return to its normal state. The fog lifted slowly, the alien trees receded, and the ground smoothed itself. But Mercer's victory remained. His actions became a subject of study, not just for the humans who would train in his methods, but for every intelligent species across the galaxy. Human strategy, endurance, patience, and ingenuity were written down, taught, and analyzed. The coalition realized that humans had been underestimated for centuries. They were survivors not because of strength, not because of weapons, but because of intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to read their environment and opponents with precision. In the years that followed, military academies across the galaxy studied the methods of Captain Eli Mercer. Lessons were taught on how to use terrain as a weapon, how to manipulate predators, how to exhaust and confuse superior enemies, and how a single mind could outthink a perfect hunting system. The Krathol were removed from service, considered too dangerous to use against species capable of clever thinking. In human space, young cadets learned the story of Mercer as a legend. They studied his traps, his patience, his ability to turn the environment itself into an ally. They understood that humans were not invincible in strength, but they were unstoppable in spirit. For Mercer himself, life returned to simpler things. Some said he returned to the jungles of Earth, to the rivers, the trees, and the nights he knew so well. Others said he trained soldiers and explorers across many worlds, passing on the lessons that had saved his life and changed the galaxy. Wherever humans went, they carried the story of the Predator test, the lesson that no matter the enemy, no matter how perfect, A clever and patient mind could survive. In time, the coalition revised the rules of the predator test. It no longer measured only hunting or direct combat. It measured adaptability, cunning, patience, and intelligence, the qualities that had allowed Mercer to survive. Alien species that once feared humans began to respect them, and some even feared them. Humanity had not only passed the test, they had rewritten it. And whenever new species asked why humans were so formidable, the simple answer was told, because they had survived the impossible. The final lesson of the predator test became a story repeated across worlds. Strength alone does not make a species worthy. Intelligence, adaptability, courage, and the ability to understand and manipulate the world around you are what define true survival. Mercer's name became a symbol of all that humans could achieve. A single human had faced death itself, faced predators no one could beat, and emerged victorious. The galaxy remembered, and would remember forever. The day when one human showed that predators could be outsmarted, that intelligence and patience could triumph over raw power, and that humanity, though small and fragile compared to many species, had something no other could match, the cunning mind and unyielding spirit of a survivor. The predator test would never be the same again, and neither would the galaxy. It had learned that humanity was not prey. Humanity was a hunter, a thinker, and a force that could not be ignored. From that day onward, the stories told in every corner of the stars carried a single warning: underestimate humans at your peril, for they had mastered the art of survival in ways no predator, no test, and no enemy could ever expect. Captain Eli Mercer's victory was not just a win, it was proof that humanity, with its Earthborn ingenuity, patience, and resilience, could challenge the galaxy itself and emerge alive.